it's Deborah from the attic, and I have the Simon Says Stamp July 2020 kit, Home Sweet Home, and we're going to start by looking at these envelopes. There are 6 of them in 3 different colours, and they have a self-seal strip on the back. There's also this half-size envelope in plain white. There are 3 die sizes in this set, which is called Ho Ho Postage. Now, the distress ink is speckled egg, but I have to tell you I have a demo size. The size you get will be about the size of this cube. It will be the smaller size. There's my lollipop, which I'm hiding, and this gorgeous little pot is 4 grams of Cosmic Shimmer Gilded Avocado. The stamp set is called Home Sweet Home, and I love those little houses. The 4 sheets of cardstock are white, navy blue, smoke and cotton candy, and these single-sided sheets from Waffle Flower Special Delivery are 6 by 8, and that's a really useful size because you can cut them in half and you've already got a card base ready. The postage dies are all attached, so I'm going to begin by snipping them free, and I'm using some snips because I found that they were just a little bit too strong for my ordinary scissors. While you have your snips, it's a good idea to get rid of any little jaggy, sticky out bits. For my first card, I've identified a bird. I've taken one of the dies and positioned it over the bird using washi tape as I run it through my die cutter to make sure that I have the bird as centrally as I can get it. And this is how the dies look. Beautiful little postage stamps. They're so sweet. I'm going to go ahead and cut out more of these birds. I'm going to put my postage stamps to one side while I work on my base. I'm going to use this sentiment to put at the bottom of a piece of the plain grey cardstock, which I've cut down from the kit. And I'm using a Simon Says Stamp clear embossing ink, and I'm going to sprinkle white embossing powder over it, and then I'm going to heat set it. Allow your heat tool to heat up for a few moments before you put it to the card. This will reduce the risk of your card warping. I've cut down this pretty patterned paper and it's going to sit above my sentiment. So I'm going to get my glue, I'm going to stick it in place, and then I'll turn it over and I'll cut off the excess. With my card base prepared, I'm going to bring back in my bird postage stamps and I'm going to nest them one on top of each other, and then I'm going to glue them into position. And that's my first card complete. For my next card, I want to use these really sweet little houses. They're all attached, and this is a long stamp, so you can decide which of those little houses you want by moving the stamp along across your card. Luckily, I have a long stamp block, and I'm attaching my little houses to that, and then covering them with some clear Simon Says Stamp embossing ink. I hope you're enjoying the visual treat that is clear ink and then followed by white embossing powder. You will be able to see something in a moment, I promise. I'm going to sprinkle this over the little houses and I'm going to heat set that. Again, your distress ink will be the mini size, but it doesn't stop you doing this technique. I've got a sponge on a stick and I'm just going to run some of the colour of the speckled egg over my white embossed houses, and you've got to build up the layers. Don't be in too much of a rush because gradually when they come through they will look really beautiful. And although I hesitate to say this at this point in the year, this would be quite a nice card for Christmas. Now I've switched to using one of my oral swabs. This is a foam pad on a paper stick. They're brilliant if you want to get some glue or some glitter or something sticky onto a card, but you don't want to destroy any of your decent brushes. So use one of these really cheap and cheerful foam pads. I'll provide information and links below this video so you can check it out. And I'm adding that, just dabbing it all around the outside edge of my card. This card is very subtle, it's very soft in its colours, and so I'm using a grey ink pad just to add my sentiment in the centre of the card. And to complete the look, I've cut it down so that it will fit nicely on a piece of the grey cardstock from the card kit, and I'm going to glue it and stick it onto that backing. And I'm leaving a margin at the top and the bottom so that all those greys work together. For our next card, I'm going to cut out one of the elements from these sheets of cardstock, and I want the birds with the envelope, but I also want to keep the yellow around the edge of the postage stamp effect. I'm going to cut 2 sheets from this beautiful cloud paper as well. I'm also going to cut in half another of the sheets of paper that has that really strong, vibrant yellow, because I'm actually going to use that as my border, and that will help tie the design together. For my cloudy paper, I'm going to cut it down and I'm going to distress it. I have this special tool, but of course you could use some scissors and use the center point of the scissors to make all of your scratches, and cut it and rough it up as much as you like. I've trimmed down my second piece of cloud paper and I've distressed it, and I'm just making sure that it will nest nicely within that first piece. Next, I've got my crocodile and I'm adding a couple of little holes into my bird image, and I'm going to choose some eyelets to pop into those holes. I'm going to use some craft foam to add dimension to the element that's going to sit on top of my card, and I'm going to cut it down so that it will just fit nicely behind my bird image. I'm going to glue it onto the reverse of my birds, and I'm going to make sure I don't cover it over the eyelet holes. I've done that before. I'm ready to construct my card, so I'm going to glue everything into position, add all of my layers, and then when I come to my little bird image that's going to sit on the top of this, I'm going to grab some crochet twine that I have in my stash. I'm going to cut it down and I'm going to tie it through each of the 2 holes that I made at the side of my image. This just gives the whole thing extra interest and dimension. I'm going to tuck the tails of that twine under the card and glue everything down. The hint of yellow on the top works really well with the yellow of the background. I wanted to show you a different way you could use the ink pad. So I'm drawing this over a plain white card that I've cut down from the cardstock, and once it's completely covered, I'm going to get some water in a little spritz that I always have ready on my desk, and I'm just going to spritz this piece of card, and I'm going to make that distress ink move around a bit and make it look as if there's more texture on this card. As my card dries, there are some great spots appearing, and I've stamped out some clouds and a Sending Hugs streamer, which I'm going to cut out, and I'm going to take my foam dabber and I'm going to cover each of these clouds. I've kept some of my clouds the way up that they were stamped, and others I've turned over, so actually I'm dabbing the glitter on the reverse of them. It will make it look as if there are more cloudy varieties in your sky. I've used a black archival ink to stamp up the aeroplane image, and I've used an archival ink because I want to colour this in using some alcohol pens. I'm going to colour it in some highly unlikely colours, but it will be bright and it will be cheerful. I positioned my aeroplane to the far right of my card to make sure that there was plenty of room for that banner to stream behind it, and I'm going to glue that down. And then I'm going to faff about with the clouds a little bit and decide exactly where I want them to be positioned. And then I'll get busy with my glue again. I've cut my top design down a little bit so that it will fit on the top of a piece of white card which I've cut down from the kit, and then I'll center my design and glue it into position. And then that card is finished. I'm returning to the stamp with a lovely little row of houses, and I'm using my black archival ink to stamp down on a piece of scrap white card. I'm going to stamp down a couple of rows and then I'm going to colour these in. The reason I'm using archival ink again is because I'm going to colour them with my alcohol pens. I've added a very faint pencil line to the centre of a piece of white card, and I'm rubbing it away because I actually don't need that much of it. I just need the occasional little marker to make sure I'm on track, because I'm going to use the Home Sweet Home stamp and I'm going to create a block background, and I need the center point just to show me if I'm stamping my block in the right place. I'm starting from the center and then I'm working out to the sides. If I twist the card under the lights, maybe you can see. Next, I'm going to throw some white embossing powder all over this, and I'm going to heat set it as I did before. This is the completed background heat set, and I'm just going to remove the extra pencil lines so that they don't show through on the final design. I'm going to trim a little off the top and the bottom so that this fits nicely onto a piece of the blue cardstock from the card kit, and I'm going to glue it into position. I've coloured in a range of the little houses and I've cut them out as well, and now I'm going to decide exactly where I want them to sit on my card. I wanted to show you a way to use up some of the card that you might not otherwise be able to because it's too small. I want to add a sentiment, so I'm going to use an excess piece of cardstock that has a pattern on the other side, but I'm going to use the white reverse. It just means that I'm not wasting anything. I'm going to stamp my image onto the piece of cardstock, I'm going to cut it down, then I'm going to glue it onto the bottom of my card, and I'm going to position the little houses as well. And our final card is complete. I'm going to leave you with a little music and some close-ups of all of the cards that we've made today. Thank you very much for your time, thank you for watching, and until we meet again, stay safe and take care.